We're live. Hey, Dubai. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Women Wise podcast. This is our one-stop shop for inspiration, empowerment, and a bit of lively discussion.
Absolutely, Sara. I couldn't agree with you more. It's all about showcasing the incredible journeys and wisdom of absolutely phenomenal women who makes this city tick, right? So excited.
Exactly. So through our insightful interviews, engaging discussions, the whole aim is basically to create a space for women where we can celebrate each other, celebrate our successes, break down those pesky barriers that sometimes can hold us back.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. We're unstoppable when we support and uplift one another. Just think about it. It's true.
It's completely true. Absolutely. And that's why our mission at the Women Wise podcast is to empower and inspire women in Dubai, but actually worldwide, not just Dubai, because we've got quite a few international listeners too. But all of our guests are from Dubai. And we want to foster that supportive community. We want to embrace true diversity amongst women, fuels the things that fuel ambition, that ignites our movement of female empowerment, the big dreams, right?
The big dreams, the big impact. I mean, by sharing stories of these extraordinary women, at the end of the day, we aim to inspire future generations and also redefine what it means to be a successful woman in Dubai.
And speaking of inspiring stories, do we have an amazing guest joining us tonight or what?
That was my drum roll. Yes, people, put your hands and feet and everything together for Nikki Steele Osborne. Yay!
Woo-hoo, that's right. Nikki's here. She's going to talk about the essentials of self-care because let's face it, and let's all be honest, come on, we can't serve from an empty vessel. And, so many of us just push ourselves until, we are on our knees.
Absolutely. So get ready, take notes, grab that cup of coffee or your favorite drink and settle in for an amazing conversation all about prioritizing yourself and creating self-care routine that truly works for you. So put your hands together for Nikki Steele Osborne.
Hello,
Hi.
Nikki.
Wow, what an intro. I love it. Is this recording?
It's recording. We are recording. We are live and
then.
we are recording.
Thank you both for having me.
Oh no, thanks for joining us. And I love it. You've got your cup of tea.
I've got my cup of tea. I've even got it in my merch cup. I've got my
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And look, we've got someone watching us from South Africa. So that's fantastic.
There you go. Hi.
Amazing. So
that's what it's
Nikki,
about.
It is all about. It's about women, international audience coming together, supporting each other and learning from each other, because it doesn't matter where we are in the world.
Correct.
As women, our roles are pretty much, consistent across all countries and all cultures. And Nikki, tell us a little bit about your who you are, first of all, before what you do.
So you might need subtitles for this. When it's an international conversation and you bring in a Scot, that just changes everything, doesn't it? So I'll try and talk slowly. So I'm currently based in Dubai. We've been here for almost 4 years now. Previously, Montenegro for 6 years, and before that, Indonesia for 7, where I had my first business. So the last 17 years have seen me travelling out of Scotland. But it's still home, it's still, the bagpipes still call, we still get shivers. There's nothing more patriotic than a Scot abroad. But what an amazing journey, what an amazing way to live and meet so many people. The fact that the three of us are sitting here talking to different groups of people. I love it. That's what I love about this lifestyle. So yeah, I had a business before as a hairdresser. But when I became a mum, we all know that changes a lot, but it actually changed the trajectory of not only my personal life, but my professional life too. So the last 4 or 5 years have seen me building up this business, the Scottish Soul Sister, as a coach, a speaker, and a course creator supporting maternal mental health. So that's where my heart is now. I love it.
And so I know we had a little chat. What's interesting actually about you, Nikki, is that when Janine and I were going through our list of who we'd like to have on the podcast, your name popped up, even though neither of us had met you together. We actually met you separately. Yeah. And it's quite interesting because even though you've only been here for 4 years, every networking event I go to, everybody knows you. They all know Nikki, the Scottish Soul Sister. You've done an amazing job at raising awareness of what you do. And obviously it touches a lot of lives. And I'm sure that, I know there are a lot of people watching the recording who won't get a chance to ask some questions, but we are looking for questions from the audience as well as we go through tonight, because I think, this is something that affects all of us, even if you're not a mum, you're as a wife or as a daughter. This is a discussion that actually impacts all of us. But for you, this is very personal, isn't it?
Extremely personal. And that's something that I've had to manage whilst I'm doing this, because obviously it still triggers me. It's that, these conversations take me back to that space where I struggled, which was for probably 18 months, not consistently. It wasn't a linear process. It was, there were good days and then there were the hard days. And I think that was the realization that if I didn't do something with that, what was it for? And it has all, we talk about the universe, and I'm not very whimsical, I'm very straight down the middle. But I really do believe that there's a reason why things happen. And when I sat, I was telling you the other day, Sarah, I still remember that pivotal moment when I decided I wanted to do this. And previously I thought life coaching was nonsense. I didn't think it was a real thing. And yet I found myself sitting at the water in Montenegrin with my son sleeping in his buggy. And I thought, I want to be a coach. And you think, well, where did that come from? But all those years of hairdressing. So even though I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years, actually, I've been doing this forever. I've always loved talking to people. I love people's stories. I love psychology. I love trying to understand our behaviours and our emotions, more so my own. That's been its own little journey. But now that I do understand more and realise how simple some of it is, it's blown my mind. And that is why I use that tagline, that simple, sustainable self-care. Because I think we live in a world now, we've got the digital age, the wellness industry has grown exponentially, it's went crazy, right? But that also can bring overwhelm when sometimes you just need a lifeline, you just need a catch. So when you go online looking for that support, sometimes that in itself just feels like too much in a moment. And that's why I've stayed in this space of, I'm a wing woman, I'm here for that catch, that is my purpose. And it's amazing how many people are still struggling with maternal mental health, with mental health in general, but obviously my niche is maternal mental health, and it's still a big issue.
It's a big topic for sure. It's a big topic. And it's also, coming from darkness to light, becoming a mom. Can you elaborate a little bit as to how motherhood empowered you to overcome these struggles and ultimately find your purpose? I mean, you realized you wanted to coach people, right?
Yeah. But I love what you just said, because you just said coming from darkness to light. And that's what I talk about a lot, because I think this topic can be quite, dark, right? It's obviously, it's an uncomfortable topic. But the whole point in me doing what I'm doing is to say, yeah, but there's hope. I can help you. I'm not here to join you in that darkness. I'm here to show you how you can evolve. So when you're talking about being empowered, I think the biggest thing is to get that understanding that this is about evolving. When you become a mom or a parent, you're never going to be that same person again, right? So we live in a culture of bounce back. And, you know, we talk about going back to pre-baby weight. If you've been a birth mother, if you've been pregnant, your body's changed biologically forever. And yet we get bombarded with these images of going back. Now, for some women, they do. That's brilliant. Well done. But for many, it's not the case. So it's managing those expectations and having honest conversations about what this means. But it means evolving, and it's not dark, and it's amazing, and it's still the best thing I've ever done in my life. You know, you just saw my son because he was jumping about behind me and I was trying to fix up mics and stuff.
Yeah, we had a few technical hitches, but they were luckily sorted out. So 2 things just as you were talking there. Number one, absolutely, the whole thing about bouncing back, that is such a powerful way of describing it, because I've had 2 children. I did sort of bounce back after the first one. That was 18 years ago. The second one, well, I'm still waiting. 14 years on, I'm waiting for the bounce back. Yeah. You know, and I think there's a lot of sort of, we judge ourselves, I think, extremely harshly. I'm not sure if other people judge us quite the same way that we do. Is that something that you found yourself doing? Do you think you were really kind of very self-critical?
Yeah, my inner voice is an absolute bitch. She's vile. And it is, and I've got to, you know, and this is the thing as well, like I never put out big marketing campaigns that I can be your solution or cure anything, because I'm still experiencing behaviours and emotions and moods, because that is life. The difference being I now have a toolkit that I can lean into and have a much better understanding of how to navigate daily life. That is the point, you know, and I have to coach myself. I hear myself, I hear the wicked things I say, and I think, okay, would I say that to my best friend? And of course I wouldn't be, you know, when I go home to Scotland and see my best friend, you know, I never rock up and go, whoa, Jelly Belly, what's going on? Right? You would never dream of being so cruel to anyone that you care about, and yet we will do it to ourselves. So that's been a part of the journey, is, you know, learning to love yourself, and that is then modelled for your children. So it all comes into being that parent that you want to show up as. You know, that's a huge part of it. I don't ever want Archie to hear me talking badly about myself, or, you know, because I'm modelling that to him. So it is about that self-love as well, but that can be like building a muscle. If it's not something you have naturally done based on whether it's your conditioning, where, you know, the environment you've grown up in, whatever has created that inner voice, it's getting curious about that and trying to come to some peace as to where that started and how to best navigate it. I don't think we can get rid of our history or the things that have impacted us, but if we understand them better, it can help.
Absolutely. It's all about the balancing act, right? Many moms really struggle with mental health challenges, and I think the likes of depression, especially after childbirth. Can you share some personal experience with regards to postnatal depression and how you actually managed to navigate that as motherhood?
Sometimes I don't know how I navigated it. I had a very supportive husband. There were so many layers to it. So I think, you know, a lot of what I talk about is managing expectation and communication. Those 2 things are huge. So my expectations of becoming a mom were up here. You know, I think I said to you the other day, Sarah, that previous episodes, you know, throughout my adult life, I've experienced times of feeling depressed or feeling anxious, still do. And I believed that my answer to that was to become a mom. That was the one part that was missing from my jigsaw. So when I got pregnant...
No pressure on yourself then?
Oh, no, none at all.
No pressure.
You know, and we tried for 3 years, and we started, you know, I was 40 when I got pregnant, 41 when I had him. So I'm considered a geriatric mom.
I know, don't you love the label?
I know.
Yeah.
But it, you know, so I had this anticipation, and I do really believe that when you're pregnant and you're going through that process, we're shown how to change the baby. You're shown, about feeding, but no one gets into the nitty-gritty of your day-to-day life and how you can shift these things. And that is everything that I do. That is the heart of what I do, is, understanding what our needs are, because our needs go out the window because we immerse ourselves in meeting the needs of that new child. Mm. And this applies whether you're a birth mum, a father, an adoptive, step, whatever capacity it is. It's managing those needs that we all have, right? So I had times where I was great and I was loving it and everything was good. I think because we were in Montenegro at the time, I didn't have proximity to my family at home. Mm-hmm. And what then happened was that when we had conversations over Zoom calls, I wasn't being transparent. I wasn't telling my mom or my family really what was going on, because I didn't want them to think, yeah, you're screwing it up. Or, I didn't want to feel judged. I didn't want advice, because even well-meaning family and friends, they want to give advice. And when you're in a particular headspace, that feels like someone's just talking at you rather than to you. Mm. And I also didn't want to worry or burden my own mum, because she wasn't there. So I didn't want to put that on her. And all these little parts really had a huge impact. And now I see it because I've got that hindsight. But at the time, I didn't see it. I just would get on and I would be like, right, we're fine. Today, we're okay. And then the next day, not so much. At my worst, I remember having what was a panic attack and Kevin trying to get me to breathe. And when I finally took the first step to getting help, one of my good friends, she's a life coach, so some of this is her fault. One of the first things I did that day at the water, that same pivotal, when I decided I wanted to do something, I sent her a message, and I remember my wording because I said, thank you for reminding me to breathe. Because it felt like 18 months I was like this, and that little glimmer of hope that she provided for me was that, okay, everything's okay. And that was the start of getting my footing. And that is what I want to do for other people now, is provide that reminder to breathe and a little bit of footing that you're going to be okay and you're going to get on top of it.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think a lot of the audience in Dubai, obviously, a lot of them won't have their family here.
Yeah.
They will be, especially if you're a first-time mom as well, it is a very scary thing to go through. And my husband laughed at me because I had about 10 books next to the bed before our first one. He was like, how many children are you actually giving birth to? Because it was, books, but nothing can prepare you. I think even that whole, I don't think, even if they told you, I don't think anyone can prepare you because it's such a unique experience for everybody. But I just want to ask you, what advice would you give then about when people speak to their families back home or their friends back home and they're not feeling great? What would you say to people now? Like, do you think you should have just done something differently, or what do you reckon?
Yes and no, but I mean, that's hindsight. I've got that perspective, haven't I? So what I do now say to people is find a safe space to talk. So I offer a free consultation. Jump on here with a coffee in your pajamas and let it out, because that is in itself the first step. Whether it's myself or any of the coaches, a counsellor, a therapist, I do the free one because I know that there's so much where budgets come into play, and therapies and a lot of these things can be really expensive at a time when you've just had a new kid and they're little but they cost a fortune. You have perhaps went down to one salary if a parent is staying at home. So when I think back, we certainly were never going to throw thousands of dollars in the hope that this coaching thing would help. So I offer a free consultation so that I can then check and see if I'm the right person. And if not, I will pass them on. Because like you said earlier, I've been networking all over the place. So I have so many wonderful people in my arsenal that I can say, actually, you would maybe benefit from talking to this person. When it comes to, like, when you're saying about having all the books, right? We've got all the information, we've got all the resources. If there's anything I can tell you is before you even look at any of those things, do a bit of personal development and understand yourself first. Because if you understand yourself, you will take yourself into a place of confidence and clarity about how you want to show up as a parent. And it makes it easier to do that. But when you've got, because it's often conflicting information that we get, you know, I remember my sister giving me a Gina Ford book about sleep training.
Oh my God.
Is there a right? No, there's a what works for you.
I wanted to burn that book, but other people swore by it. But I actually, it actually made me feel worse. I have to say, when you've just taken me back. I think you probably just saw my reaction to that book.
Yeah.
It's visceral. It's a visceral reaction to her advice, and I kept thinking, he's not a model baby. I don't know how. Like, what is going on here? This is not. I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to wake him up at 7:30? He's only just gone to sleep. Why would I wake him up at 7:30?
Right, and I think that a lot of it has changed, but that just shows you that reaction that you had, because we each are unique. We all have our own filter about the world in general. We've all got opinions. When it comes to raising a child, everybody's, you know, there is one of those memes that said I was a brilliant parent when it was hypothetical, you know, before I actually had any. And I'll put my hand up. I was exactly the same. I had all these things in my mind, and none of that's happened because it's not reality. But what has happened is, by looking after myself better, I've become a better mum. My reactions are different. My tolerance is higher. It's not perfect. You know, I'm human. But there are so many, and I'm more confident in who I am as a person, and therefore who I am as a mum. And that's had to come into play with the business. You know, because again, a business is something that everyone's got an opinion on, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, how your Instagram's supposed to look. And I've kind of went, yeah, no, I'm just going to do it my way. But that's because I'm confident in exactly the space that I stand in this world. You know, but that takes time to build. And when you're a mum and you're feeling all that pressure of everyone else, before you read any books about how to look after your baby, because you'll look after your baby. You know how to meet them. You will do that. But you'll do it better if you look after yourself too.
Absolutely. Your cup needs to be full. And I think the one thing that we don't do is we don't always listen to our body.
No.
And that self-care is so important. That's exactly what all this is if your cup is full, the rest of the world will be fine.
Yeah. And it's understanding what that means, because often when we talk about self-care, we're looking at spa days or popping off to the Maldives, if that's your jam. What I talk about is, are you and your partner discussing your budgets? Have you managed the expectations about the general day-to-day tasks in the house? You know, what about food? Who's prepping the food? Who's getting up with the baby? What is the feeding pattern with the baby? You know, who's going to work? What are the expectations there? Are family and friends going to be a support? Has that been discussed? If not, can you tap into an outside resource? Do you have the financial means to pull in? And remembering that everything is temporary. I think sometimes we're scared to do something because we then feel that we've written in blood that we're going to continue to do that. And it's not, it's temporary. It's like what you need at a particular time when you have a young child changes. You know, my son is now 6 years old. It's a completely different landscape from when he was a baby. Right? You know, it's different needs and wants.
It's creating healthy habits. Gives you that self-care routine. Now, Nikki, I want to ask you.
That's the tough part, is for people to step away from their existing habits. And people have feelings when you change. You know, 15 years ago, if we were having this conversation, I would probably have had a cigarette in one hand and a drink in the other, right? Now, I'm the one that if someone's smoking outside at a restaurant, I'm like, you know, I don't drink anymore. And that wasn't a massive statement. Like, I didn't say I am sober or I don't drink anymore. I just choose not to more often than I do, because I understood that that was a habit that wasn't supporting my mental well-being. So now I just take the car if I'm going to see girlfriends, but all these things are really interesting when you start getting into them and people's reactions, you know. So I think those ones are actually harder to shift than introducing the new ones. I think it's getting rid of the other habits that can be trickier.
One of the things when we were chatting the other day, Nikki, was that it was difficult for you to actually recognize that you did actually have postnatal depression because you didn't tick every box.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting, because I think that's like that for a lot of things, isn't it? You know, we think, oh, you know, do I have this? And then you look through the list and you're thinking, no, I don't have all of those. And maybe some of those seem to be the ones that everyone thinks is the big one.
Yeah.
So can you give us sort of an example then of what sort of things people might be struggling with and they don't recognize it, but it probably is postnatal depression, or it is some sort of, you know, having a very low period in your life where a bit of help is absolutely needed?
I think one of the main things for me was when I was going on to Dr. Google, and it was always saying, you know, that mothers would feel that they're not bonding or connecting with their baby. And I was like, well, that's definitely not a symptom for me. And if anything, it was almost like I wasn't sure how to manage what I did feel. Like this love that you have, no one can ever prepare you. No one can tell you. You think you know until you actually have your own child. And I think what happened was, in my mind, when we're talking about that inner voice again, that inner voice was like, hey, you're not good enough to be this perfect little person's mom. You know? And that was when I started thinking, I need to work on this. And you know, obviously it's bounced back into the times previous. There were some of the sensations or feelings or emotions that I did recognise, but now it was, something has to happen here. I can't live like this and be the mum that I want to be, you know. I was angry because I felt that I had lost time with Archie, that I had spent in tears or feeling overwhelmed or feeling disconnected. That was something that I remember talking about, this feeling of doing what you had to do, but just not feeling it. And the first call that I had with a counsellor, she jumped on a Zoom call with me. And I thought she was going to resign the next day. Like, that's it. I've peaked in my career. This Scottish woman has nailed it. I don't know how to fix her. But she was brilliant. But one of the things she said on the call was, Nikki, why do you keep touching your head? And I kept doing this when I was talking. I hadn't realised it, but I kept doing this. And I said, because I feel like it's going to explode. It just felt, and that's anxiety, right? That's that. So even when you had times where, you know, I should have been sleeping and resting, this was going all the time. So I wasn't resting. I wasn't getting that self-care. I remember my sister putting me in bed in Scotland and I wouldn't go. I got back up. You know, it's like your behaviours are based on your thoughts, right? We know that our thought process impacts our emotions and our behaviours. And it was my thought processes that needed that bit of attention. But the first thing was actually saying it all out loud to that counsellor was the very first step to, okay. And then it was the life coach, and she had a retreat and I did 2 days there and everything changed from that time, you know.
Quite a roller coaster for sure. Now, Nikki, I want to ask you, can you possibly share with us one of your success stories when someone dealt with you and the relief you actually gave them after a session or two with you?
It's brilliant. I love what I do, because I feel like now I can go into situations, I'll go along to coffee mornings with mums and things, and usually I can identify pretty quickly who is struggling, who's putting on that brave face. And there was an occasion, and I am an empath and I am emotional, I cry for fun. And there was an occasion where there was a table of kind of 4 mums, and I was talking to them. And I picked up that one of them, she kept looking at me, then looking at her friend, so I was able to read. I feel like I'm quite good with people. Naturally, I like people and I'm drawn to people. So I was aware of this interaction. And when I said, I didn't feel like I wasn't, it wasn't that I couldn't bond with him, or we were talking about that, and she burst into tears, because she had been feeling exactly the same. So then I was crying because I'm sitting with her. But that, like, just giving people a space. When I launched my digital resource, because not everyone wants to talk, I've come into this as a coach and providing a space to talk. And we use that narrative, if you're not feeling great, just reach out. That's great, but we don't. We don't. So something that gave people that support, but also discretion if that's what they needed at that time. When I launched the course, I asked friends at home to run through it for me, because they're Scottish and I knew they would be honest and tell me if it was shit. One of them came back, who don't have children, they're not parents, and one of them came back and went, "You might have just saved our marriage."
Wow. That's amazing.
That is because it's just instigating conversation around these things in our day-to-day life that we often, not that we deliberately ignore it, it's sometimes that we're not aware of it. So I feel like the course comes in like that third person, because when I talk to clients, and it is that running theme, often I do deal with men, I do deal with dads, but most often it's the mums, right? It's the women. And I'll say, "Have you spoken to your husband about this?" And she'll say, "Well, yeah, when he came in from work yesterday." And I'm like, there you go. You've attacked him when he's came in. His defences have gone up. You're not actually having the conversations. You're having a fight. That's different. So it's about creating a space where everyone sits down in a time when they're feeling calm and they're feeling relaxed, and having the course as like a third person in those conversations, so that no one feels that they're being attacked, So I love the feedback that I have gotten so far from the course. Someone did a review for me just the other day about speaking and about being with mums, and I was in tears reading it, because that I've still got my inner voice. I've still got that, am I doing this properly? What can I do better? And I think it's important to still have an awareness of that. But that is when I feel like I'm a success. This isn't about hitting 6 figures in 30 minutes like everybody on Instagram seems to be doing. I'm not sure how they're doing it, because anyway, that's a different.
I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of talk on out there. I think
different topic.
Yeah,
that's another podcast. We could be here all night, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
And it's funny, because I just saw something the other day which I thought was brilliant. When we're talking about success and awareness and helping parents, and Marks and Spencer's, the big British store, I think it was from the 1st of April, have changed their paternity and maternity policies, and they're now giving way more time off with pay. Like, they're really that really filled me with hope, because I do talk to companies as well and say, what are you doing for maternity and paternity other than time off and money? Do you have a reason? Is anyone coming in and talking to these families? So that's something that I'm working on, because I feel like if employers support, then they're going to retain staff, they're going to have better productivity and clarity. Like, it all just goes hand in hand. It's almost common sense, right?
I never even thought about that, actually, in terms of talking to the companies, because you just assume, they're going to do the bare minimum, whatever they're legally obliged to do.
Yeah.
But I think so much has changed, obviously, since 2020, and more people are working from home and things like that. But just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do, the parenting as well. And, I think there was a lot of pressure put on people who were continuing to do their jobs, have their families. I'm sure you saw a lot of that.
And it is, companies are losing amazing employees because they're just, it's difficult to have that clarity, and to be able to manage. And that's what a lot of this is about, is like managing your time. I was talking to someone this morning, and again, when we talk about the internet and, the resources, there are narratives that are playing out as well. And there's a thread just now, I get quite controversial, but there's a thread just now that troubles me, where we are acknowledging the challenges of day-to-day life when you're a parent, right? But there is also a thread where we're leaning into demonizing day-to-day life. It's like there's a narrative of, this load of having to clean your house when you're a mum. And I'm like, well, who's going to do it? Do we just stop cleaning the house because it's tough? Like, it's how we navigate and manage that. Can we create a wee schedule and delegate to other people and make it work for us? But to just stand in a space and go, everything's hard and everything sucks, well, I don't think that's helpful. That's not helping people move past that. That's, in a way, enabling this darkness. There's a lot of manipulation online. I've got a lot of issues with things I see online, from other platforms who claim to be supporting families, and they're crying into their phone so that they get the authenticity likes. And I'm like, there is nothing authentic to me about having a meltdown and going, where's my phone? Recording it, then uploading it. Like, that doesn't scream authenticity to me. That I find really manipulative. And I've said this before and people had feelings, but that's okay. I'm thick-skinned.
I think I have to say I totally agree with you. I think that whole demonizing of life, is a big thing. It sounds like we're on this very similar page. For example, I work a lot with kids, and one of the things that I've noticed schools have decided to do is to take away exams and tests because kids can't cope with them. And I'm going, okay, but are you getting rid of them forever? Because at some point they're going to come in, and at some point they're going to have to learn how to deal with it. So again, if you're just demonizing, this is just too stressful for them and they're having meltdowns, it's like, why aren't you helping them to cope with it better then? Don't get rid of it, because what's that going to do? Other than going, things are too difficult. Let's just not do it.
Yeah. See, we could have like loads of podcasts, us three.
So there's a question, actually. Let's just, it's from Clarissa Bates, and she said, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, Lordy, how long have we got? My younger self. You know what? I feel like everything that has happened and that I've done in my lifetime, some of it I'm not so proud of. Some of my behaviours, weren't great. So I think if I was to give myself a chat, my younger self, it would be back to what we were talking about earlier, and it would be to love myself for all my things, instead of trying to nitpick and pull apart and find things that were wrong. It's taken a long time. I'm 48 now, and really it's only in the last few years that I've taken ownership of that I do have a good energy, that I am, and it's been a running thread for years. People have always said that about me. And, I would never believe that, would I? I wouldn't take it on. But if you said my arse looked big in a pair of jeans, I would carry that for the next 5 years, and yet I wouldn't let that positive narrative run. So if I could say anything to myself, it would be to love myself a wee bit more. And and I would probably have saved some of the pain. But again, some of it is where the resilience comes from, right? So we've got to experience different things. And, you know, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for taking that leap to go overseas, and for everything that's happened after that, even when it's been hard. If I sit here right now in this moment, I now have the most amazing husband that I would never have met had I not went overseas. You know, I've got my son, I've got my wee dog, I've got a business that I wholeheartedly love. Like, there's never a time that I question if I should be doing this, and that's when I know that I'm in the right space. That doesn't mean it's easy, and it goes without challenges. But I love myself enough now to pick myself up and go through those challenges, you know. So that would be my advice, just to love myself and not be so bitchy to myself.
I love that. And it's celebrating what makes you you. Love blooms from inside. So you have to water yourself. As silly as that sounds, but you have to water yourself. Yeah. And if you bloom, guess what? Everything else around you is going to do that. We have a question from Michelle, but I think she's still trying to type it because she hit enter before she finished the question, from what I can pick up. Sara, do you have anything while we wait for Michelle?
Yeah, because it was obviously, I knew you were coming on tonight, and we'd had a chat yesterday, and I was kind of mulling over, and I'm a mum, and I just think that it always makes me laugh, which is the when you're on an aeroplane and the air hostess is doing, the exits are here and here, and and then says, put your own oxygen mask on, and then help somebody else. And I just always have this, I laugh inside my head because I'm thinking, I'd like to look around and go, how many mums are on board and how many have gone, hell no, the oxygen mask is definitely going to go onto the child first. There's no way I'm going to look after myself first. And I've had one of those weeks, and Janine will attest to this, because we haven't even spoken, I think, since last Wednesday, because I've had a sick, well, he's not a child anymore, he's an adult, but he's just heading home tonight.
They stay your child.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm 48.
They stay your child.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. And I'm sure he'll never watch this, so I can say what I like, really. And then my youngest son had to go take him to hospital. He had a procedure done, which we weren't expecting. Everything, all of our plans completely changed. I feel like I've literally just been on the road between clinics and pharmacies, and, and up in the night as one of them comes in to go, Mom, I'm still not feeling very well, and I can't stop coughing, and I'm actually exhausted. And I was sort of thinking about, what advice then do you give in that situation? Because in a way, you're fighting fires at that point. So do you just have to just get on with it? And is it afterwards, or is there something you can do in the middle of all of that?
I think it is understanding that moments do pass, and that, it will get better. And what's happening is, we spoke about this. Everything that I centre around is that we have 6 human needs, and we are all unique. So we have a driving human need, right? So certainty is my driving human need. There is nothing that will knock that, like having a kid, because previously you were in control of your external stimulus when you had noise, like the TV or music, when you slept, when you ate, and then when there's a child. So no matter what age that child is, your certainty has been impacted because, things have came into your peripheral this week that weren't anticipated. So it's just that human need is being impacted at that time, and then it will settle down. So in the midst of it, I think it's finding the things that help calm you. I actually spoke about this today in a post about, we often look for the lovely things in life, like a reward. We wait for the weekend or the holiday. And when you start peppering your day with things and raising awareness to the things that help, there's massive power in music. There's massive power in comedy, in our breathing. And again, when we go into that whimsical state, sometimes like all the breathing stuff and it's all waterfalls, and that doesn't do it for me. But I found a guy called Yogi Brian, who's on Instagram, And he's doing breathing techniques, but he swears like a sailor. He's brilliant. So I relate to him better, but he's still doing the same thing, you know, and it's like paying attention to your breath, tapping into the things that you know give you a little boost at a particular time or relax you, whatever it is you need, whether you're feeling anxious or whether it's a sadness. It depends what kind of vibration you're at, right? Do you need a boost or do you need to calm? And have it all written down somewhere, you know, have all your things. And that's why I made that course, because that is where you create your own unique list of things, you know, that work for you, because we're all different. But comedy and music, getting your music turned up, whether you're in the car and you can belt it out or have a dance around the kitchen, it is. And I didn't deliberately do this, right? This is why I became so aware of it, because previously I would watch things on TV that were like, you know, thrillers and dark stuff, people being murdered and whatever. I would read books that were like that, you know, that were dark thrillers, and I would listen to music like Damien Rice and real kind of down music. And when I started all of this process, there was one day I went to put on music and I went, oh my God, no wonder I'm depressed. Do you know what I mean? Listening to this. And that's when I started realizing, okay, our external stimulus plays a huge part in how we are feeling. So then I created a playlist. I've got it on my Instagram just to invite people to make their own and remind themselves of the music that they love and makes them feel good. Comedy, you know, I still watch like Friends and things. I crack myself up. My husband will tell you that. But comedy, you know, and what I read now, I don't read things that are so dark. I read something that's either kind of uplifting or educational, you know, it's about self-help, whatever. I'm reading a book about a counsellor, a therapist. But being aware of that, being aware of the people that you surround yourself with, are they draining your energy or are they helping you, elevating you? All of these things, you know, are important. But when you understand them and you can make a little list and just remind yourself when you're being impacted during a time when your kids are there and they've been poorly and you've been up against it, you know, it's tough in that moment to know how to navigate that, right?
Absolutely. As you said, it's breathe in, breathe out. Just know that this too shall pass, they say, right?
The fire extinguisher one's good. A lot of the parents like that one. It's like if you're feeling that you're getting reactive to your kids, if they're driving you nuts, it's to breathe in twice through your nose and then out through your mouth. And when you're breathing out, pretending you're a fire extinguisher and you're calming whatever it is in front of you that's driving you nuts. And I did that. I was talking about that on a webinar it was parents from one of the nursery schools, and all the mums were, and I'm like, if you take one thing today and that's it, so be it. I'm okay with that.
Well, no, breathing is so important. So one of the things, again, I was thinking, you know, we were coming on tonight and we were going to be chatting, and just one of the things about depression that occurred to me today, I was kind of going to ask you a question, which is when you've discovered your passion and you're actually working to your passion, do you feel that depression in a way is a message to say you're not living your passion, you're not living your purpose? Like, do you think there's a link with that?
Absolutely. I think depression can present for a lot of reasons. I think it can be, I mean, if you're not living life on your terms, and so many people don't. There are so many people we all know who are in jobs that they're miserable. They're in relationships that they're miserable and they feel stuck. You know, they don't know how to get out of that. So that is going to breed those feelings of depression. You know, not having, because we often have a feeling, don't we? You know, I've always known that there was something else, and I couldn't explain it. And even now, I still have this gut feeling about what I'm doing, that it's important, you know, and that brings me satisfaction. So Yeah, I do think if you're in the wrong environment, whether that is career, personal, perhaps you're living somewhere that you don't want to be, it all has an impact. You know, it's not a secret to anyone listening that knows me that we're leaving Dubai in the summer. And that has been an active decision from us that we want to be somewhere with seasons. We want proximity to our family. So rather than just sit here and go, well, it's good, there's a lot of good things about Dubai, but if that's not connecting, if that doesn't fit, do something about it. We're only here one time. Like, don't sit in something when you know that you have a solution. You know, find your solution. And you've got to be honest with yourself about what that is. I think that's often the thing. People are not honest with themselves because we listen to the opinion of others, and they're not the ones that are living your life. So you've got to be honest with yourself about what you want and need in your life. You know?
That's another deep topic right there, if you think about it. But Nikki, we have a question from Michelle. She finally finished that question, and it is, what advice would you give new moms in Dubai coping without their families?
Without their families. So the good thing about Dubai is actually there are a lot of resources. Michelle, feel free to send me a message and I'll send you all the groups that I'm aware of. There are lots of support groups here. There's lots of like mum and baby groups. You won't like everything. You won't like everyone. Explore, you know, tap into different ones. I also say to people, if you're a new mum, yes, have your friends who are in a similar situation, but also have your friends who perhaps don't have kids. They're a bit older. That, you know, keep that variety, because you're a mum, but you're not only a mum. You're allowed to still have other interests and other things that you enjoy. Go and take up a dance class or go for singing lessons. Explore something and use this time as an opportunity to evolve. And so everything I always feed back, I'm like Billy Connolly, I go around in circles. But this goes back to the bouncing back. Just because you used to do particular things before you had your baby doesn't mean you have to do that again. You're actually allowed to change and take on other things and try other things. So I would say, you know, tap in, because Dubai actually does have a lot to offer for new mums. When my son was a baby, we were in Montenegro and we started a mum and baby group. It was 2 of us. That was it. You know,
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. It just takes.
Yeah, I mean, she was my lifeline, you know. But that's the thing, is that when you don't have proximity to your family and friends, you need support. Don't sit in on your own, you know. You need to tap in. But there are a lot of groups here. So send me a message and I'll tell you all the ones that I know about.
It's almost like networking.
Maybe share some of those links as well. But you know, when the video goes out on YouTube, you know, maybe send us some of those links, because I think anyone watching would you know, that'd be really, really helpful.
No,
absolutely helpful. For any listeners going through a tough time, remember that you're not alone. There's resources available. There's people like Nikki who can absolutely be your go-to person, and you can overcome these challenges and find your own path with purpose. If people need to reach out to you, Nikki, how do they do that?
So the website has all of the social media links on it. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest, and I don't even know where I'm, TikTok sometimes. So the website is the Scottish Soul Sister. So that's probably the easiest way to go first, and then you can pick your platform of choice. But I'm pretty much on every day. I show up every day with a little something.
That's amazing.
I love it.
That's fantastic. So this is probably a good place maybe to wrap up. So one last question, Nikki, which is, you know, if there was one thing that you absolutely couldn't do without in terms of your own self-care routine, you know, what is it?
My schedules, I think. I like to manage my time. And if I'm not doing that, you know, my routines and my schedules, I can go for a wee while. So just now it's been the holidays, right? So our routine has been impacted. and I'm okay for a period of time. But on Monday morning, I'll be back into my groove. And that's the certainty thing. But I understand it, and I understand why I like particular things. So in the morning, I do a 7-minute low impact workout when I get up. Then I have breakfast with Archie. That's our love and connection time. They go to school, and then I take the dog and I get outside, and we go for a walk, and I leave the phone at home and just go out and tap into the sights and the sounds. So that morning thing is really important as to how my day plays out. That's something that I lean into quite heavily, because I know that I feel better as I start my day, and that brings in that clarity and that mood, Obviously, I have my moments. It's not every day. 80-20. I do that 80-20 about everything. It just relieves that pressure to do everything perfectly all the time. It's like cutting ourselves a break is really important, isn't it?
Yeah. Having me time in your diary is very, very important. I totally
Actually,
agree.
Kevin and I have me time on our schedules. We do a schedule every week of our timings, what's going on, and we do a meal plan. And both of those are on the fridge every week. And one of the things we do is we each have a night. So as much as everyone, when you're a new parent and everyone talks about date night, that is important. But I also think you've got to honour having time on your own. You weren't always married. You weren't always
a self-date night.
Self-date, yes.
I've been to a hotel. I was in a hotel last week on my own with my book and my bag of Haribo, and I went for a spa. I went for dinner on my own, went back to the hotel, had a night, went and had my breakfast. I love hotel breakfasts. And it's like a recharge. And I actually had the hotel room until 9 o'clock because they had a Ramadan deal. So 9 p.m. was when I could check out. But I sneaked home early to have dinner and put Archie to bed because I had my time to recharge. I felt like, okay, I'm good. I've done that. Now I can come back. So, yes, me time, super important.
Well, I hope that everyone listening has filled up their cup from this discussion. It's been really inspiring, and I just love it. As you said, simple, sustainable self-care, nothing complicated about it. You've just got to have the courage to do it and see the benefits. So Nikki and Janine, of course, my amazing co-host, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really encourage everyone to go and check out the Scottish Soul Sister. It'll be, you won't regret it.
Thanks absolutely.
Have a lovely evening.
No, it's been fantastic. Your honesty and resilience it's truly admiring and absolutely just love having you with us. And absolutely inspiring conversations today.
Oh, thank you. That's recorded too, right?
Say again?
That's recorded too, isn't it?
It's all recorded. It's all recorded.
All these lovely.
So until next Wednesday, we're back again next Wednesday for more inspiring discussions. So please do check out our website, which is womenwise.media, and you'll be able to see the registration or the recordings of the previous podcasts. So from us for the next week, have a great week, and we will see you then.
Awesome.